Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Salty Vapor. I am Chris Jordan, broadcasting to you from Richmond, Indiana, in the heart of these United States. What we have today to do for you is a sub-ohm clear miser, a very popular one, um, probably for a good reason, but we'll see as we go along. The Atlantis version 2 and the Atlantis version 1, of course, kicked us off on this whole barrage of craziness with this, windfall of sub-ohm clear misers coming out on the market. The Atlantis version 1 kicked it off. This is the Atlantis version 2. So we would expect significant improvements, would we not? Um, and just it's been a nice little device to use with some reservations, but we'll talk about that more as we go along. First, what we're going to do, we're going to do three things. We're going to do the specs. We're going to take an up close look, do some dimensions and things, take a look at the clear miser up close, then come back up top and do some pros and some cons and final recommendations and such as that. So um, you can find this clear miser, this Aspire Atlantis version 2 on my Vaper store. That's myvaporstore.com. You can find it for $32.95 plus shipping. My Vaper store does a very nice job getting the product out quickly, getting it to you fast. That's one reason I chose them. They've got a nice description on here also. The Aspire Atlantis version 2 sub-ohm tank. The Atlantis version 2.0 by Aspire is the upgraded version of the popular Atlantis. The innovative tank system brings new improvements such as improved and adjustable airflow, which allows the air to flow more easily and conveniently. The version 2.0 features a larger, not large enough, but larger 3 mil capacity compared to the original 2 mil capacity of the Atlantis. The Atlantis 2.0 features a new cooling system located at the top of the tank, which allows you to adjust the temperature by rotating this little ring right here, rotating the valve to control the amount of external air. The Atlantis 2.0 also features a large stainless round drip tip, which provides an RDA-like experience. The Atlantis version 2.0 features new sub-ohm 100% organic cotton coils that help vapors experience a pure taste and bigger clouds than the previous model. 1 ohm, 0.5, and 0.3 ohm coils are all available for the Atlantis 2.0. Features and specs: it's 2 inches long by 7/8 diameter without the drip tip, which figures to be 22 millimeters in diameter. It is, of course, 510 threaded. Again, the capacity is 3 mils. Has a replaceable glass tank, but it does not come with a replacement, as we will see. Stainless steel construction, no chrome plated brass or anything like that in this one. Patented Aspire BVC technology, whatever that means. The Arctic tank and a number of other models feature vertical coils, but apparently Aspire has patented their own BVC technology. Again, whatever that means. 100% organic cotton coils, wire made in the United States of America. Yay, America! Available resistances: 0.3, 0.5, and 1 ohm coils available. Upgraded adjustable airflow and new cooling system, which is what they're calling this adjustable airflow up here by the drip tip. It's filled from the bottom. You unscrew the base and fill the tank to avoid the metal airflow tube in the center, just like usual. But so those are the new features and specs of the Atlantis version 2.0. I think with that we will go down down up close, down and dirty, and have a look at the device itself and go from there. So see you in one moment. Okay, so here we are with the Atlantis version 2.0. The packaging, which I've already partially destroyed. You can see I've torn there a bit. So very similar to the version 1 packaging. Nice little jewel case here. Just pops open right like that. And you have your atomizer, of course. It comes installed with the 0.3 ohm coil, but inside the package it also includes a 0.5 ohm coil, which was right there at one time, but I have since taken it out and actually put it in the device. Comes with a little warning card to the effect that you should let the tank stand for 2 minutes and to get your coil saturated. Otherwise, it will burn. I've found that you have to saturate the coils with your e-liquid. We'll get this out of the way. You have to saturate the coils with your e-liquid and then let it stand for a while to completely get saturated. Otherwise, you will get dry hits and you will potentially burn your cotton. So I think 2 minutes is a bit optimistic for what you actually have to do there. So let's get some dimensions on this here device. With the drip tip in place, this is always so awkward, but with the drip tip in place, it is, and going to the very bottom of the 510 connection, it is 71.36 millimeters in length. If we take off that 510 connection, it'll set on your mod. It'll set almost exactly, well, 66.58 millimeters is your length without the 510 connection. You'll see on that 510, if it'll focus there, the center pin protrudes out more so than some of the other ones, but I still would not recommend using this on a hybrid mod for a variety of reasons. Sometimes these aren't so stable. This one, again, it feels pretty stable, but it just doesn't quite stick out far enough, I think, to use it on a hybrid. I wouldn't feel comfortable using it anyway. So we looked at the length, the diameter of the device at its widest point down here by the airflow is pretty much 22.42, so almost 22 and a half millimeters at its widest point. Where the glass is, it runs more like 20.84 millimeters. Has this massive drip tip on here, and it alone is 15.33 millimeters in diameter. So just a massive drip tip there. You can see you have this adjustable airflow with the knurling piece right in there. I've been using it closed, but you can twist it and open her up all the way. Really, your only options are fully open and fully closed. When you open one hole, it opens all of them, and it does cool down your vape, and it does allow for a bit more vapor. You can see, and we'll talk more about this in the cons, but get a nice up close look at this here. I don't like the way this is focusing, so I'm going to take it off of auto. It's driving me crazy there. Um, so yeah, um, so on top you can see that there is some e-liquid there by by this hole right here, um, and that happens continually. It leaks. What I assume is condensation. I don't think it's like, I don't think it's e-liquid straight from the tank or anything. I think there is condensation which builds up in this area and then leaks out through the air holes, whether they are open or closed. Like I said, I've been using it closed like that. And the e-liquid condensation still builds up in this little well in there. Big design flaw there. They could have made this so that it drains, so that it doesn't have all these nooks and crannies in there where condensation can build up. They could have designed it where it will drain down into the tank, much like the version 1. The version 1 did not have this problem at all. It had a slanted uh, chamber in there, and the e-liquid would just run back down in the coil, and condensation would not build up. But we see a number of other tanks with problems similar, mostly RDAs. This one is really one of the few clearomizers that have this issue with condensation building up. But nevertheless, it is an issue, and one that I thought I would point. I haven't really seen others talk about that, but it's one of the more frustrating things to me, because you get e-liquid on your hands when you touch it, and you constantly see that little bead of e-liquid setting up there around your your airflow ring. So has some branding there on the front. Aspire. Aspire always has very muted branding. There's no like big Atlantis 2.0 logo or anything. The airflow, you can see here, this is at its widest point. Actually, that's at its widest point. It was a little bit off there. And you get airflow on both sides. So two massive airflow holes. Just take a look at how large those are. Let me zero this out. And it looks to be just over 7 millimeters in long by roughly a millimeter, or roughly 2 millimeters, I mean. So roughly 2 millimeters by 7 millimeters is your airflow wide open there. Looking at the other available configurations, you turn your ring there, and what you get is this. You get a reduced Cyclops airflow on that end, and you get this very tiny hole on the other side. Kind of an unusual choice there, but I'm guessing that they found that with two of these kind of Cyclops holes, it was too similar in draw to the wide open, so they did put the Cyclops on one side and the tiny hole on the other side. Even in this mode, though, essentially there's two airflow modes here, and even in this mode, it's not really appropriate for a mouth-to-lung hit. I've been using it wide open, doing primarily direct lung hits. You can sort of mouth the lung with a smaller airflow hole, but but it's not super comfortable, and it's still awfully wide open for that purpose. Again, you see that massive, massive drip tip. And I think that's about it. Oh, another just little little thing that sort of on the version 1, this was an issue too. These this crown is designed so that your wicking holes will line up with your crown, the gaps in the crown there. But I found that they don't always or ever really line up, and so you have to kind of turn it to get and kind of loosen your tank up a bit like that to get your wicking holes to actually line up correctly, if you care about such things. And it kind of then worries me that it's going to be so loose that it gets some leaking from the tank. But if you have a very thick VG based liquid, you might want to make sure your wick holes are fully open. The wick holes on these coils are much larger than the version 1, and so you get better wicking, I think, with thicker liquids. In my experience, like, you can use high VG liquids with this device and no dry hit issues. Right now I've got Looper in here, which is a high VG. No issues at all with wicking after you get it initially saturated. That's a bit of a process. But so that's the Atlantis 2 up close and personal here. I think we've looked at all the I didn't break it down or anything like that. It breaks down very similar to the version 1. To fill it, you just take off that bottom piece like so. There you have your coil, and there's your crown, and you fill your liquid just like you did the version 1 around the crown without getting liquid into your crown there, because it will go straight through to the drip tip, but not bad to fill at all. Coils are nice and beefy. I'll show you there how large those wicking holes are. They're quite large, and I believe there are more of them than on the version 1. So it does wick very, very nicely. And with that, now that I've got e-liquid all over my fingers, which was the goal here, we will put this back together. We will leave this down and dirty camera angle behind us, and we will go back up top and talk about the pros and the cons, and go from there. See you in a moment. Welcome back up top, folks. Let's talk some pros, let's talk some cons, and let's talk some final recommendations on the Aspire Atlantis version 2. Let's start on the positive side first. This device has some great vapor production, as you saw there. I'll do this again though. Kind of turn my head in a pretentious manner there, so you can see the vapor production. Solid construction, always a plus with Aspire products. The construction always very nice. The aesthetics not so great. That's another thing with Aspire products. I find they're kind of like the ugly ducklings of the vaping world, but they're always solidly built. Not super attractive products, but nevertheless decent flavor, on par with the version 1, and great airflow. Lots of options there, except for not really a good mouth to lung option. Lots of wide open options. I would say, like, you can, and with that top adjustable airflow, you can really open it up, really cool down your vapor. I'll do one with that open just for science here. Just massive production there. So moving on to the cons, it's leaky. It's very leaky from the top, both from the top and a little bit from the Cyclops airflows on the bottom here. You get some condensation leakage. The one around the top is the one that really bothers me. Like occasionally when I'll take this tank off, like there'll be a little bit of condensation buildup down here on my mod. That annoys me a little bit. This condensation, this bead of condensation that's constantly building up around the top here, is the larger annoyance. And this is because of this, it's because of the silly airflow adjustment on the drip tip, which I think is totally unnecessary. I keep it closed all the time. I wish Aspire had the foresight to make this whole thing totally removable, so that I could put my own drip tip in here and use it like that, but they did not. So this part is removable, but you cannot put a normal 510 drip tip in there. It is proprietary because it's so massive and because you have this, again, the silly airflow adjustment. I just think that, in my opinion, the Clearos are never going to be something that you take to a cloud competition. And I think with this RDA, or not RDA, with this Clearo, Aspire is trying hard to be something that you would take to a cloud comp, but it's not going to happen. It's always going to be RDAs at cloud comps and things. And so why make this whole adjustment up here to really cool down your vapor to an almost uncomfortable point, and create problems with for leaking and for not being able to use 510. The trade-offs for this whole system up here are far more than it's worth. And I think that the reviews that I've watched, and certainly my opinion, is that this whole thing is just not worth it, and it's one of the weak points of the device. If you took this whole thing away, you're left with a relatively solid, well-functioning Clearo. But yeah, this, for one, it's gigantic, and now it's not anything like a chuff top or anything. But again, for that kind of vaping, it doesn't need to be that wide. And the airflow down here inside the tank, which is what really matters. Your smallest airflow hole is going to be what determines your overall airflow. It is going to be far smaller than that ridiculous drip tip. So it's unnecessary anyway. That was a bit of a rant, but it is leaky, which is where I was going with that, especially around the drip tip airflow, where there's constantly a bead of condensation building up there. The capacity of the device continues to suck. It is a mil more than version 1, 3 mils instead of 2, but still not nearly what the tank extender was for the version 1, which was 5 milliliters, I believe. They should have just made this tank 5 mils and been done with it. I'm sure that Aspire will come out with a 5 mil tank extender, which is just annoying. So you have to purchase another $15-$20 item to make your tank 5 mils. Just a marketing ploy. 3 mils, especially, and this goes into another con with this device, especially with the 0.3 ohm coil, but also largely with the 0.5 as well. You're going to burn through juice so fast with this device. It seems to even burn through juice faster than some of the other ones. They all go through juice very quickly, but this one seems to go especially quick. Like literally, hard vaping, you can go through a 3 mil tank of this in half hour, 45 minutes, like of chain vaping, serious vaping. Um, so in my view, the capacity continues to suck um, for the Atlantis, and the size of the Clearo itself is not proportionate to the capacity of the tank. It continues to be one of the larger Clearos out there, but but the tank capacity does not translate, and I think it has to be just because of the largeness of that crown in there, and the internals take up so much space that the capacity continues to be low. I think there's a better way to do that. Um, the flavor with the drip tip airflow open, another con. I find that the flavor is very muted with that drip tip airflow open. So I normally leave it closed. I care more about the flavor. I kind of like a little bit warmer vape anyway. Even with it closed and the airflow wide open down here, it tends to be a cool vape. Um, so yeah, the flavor with this open, I think you lose a good 30% of your flavor right off the top. Maybe that's high. Maybe 20 to 30% of your flavor goes bye-bye with that drip tip airflow open. And the final con, mouth to lung hits are not really an option with this particular Clearo. Direct lung hits are probably, just to show you, like I'll do a mouth to lung here and see how that goes. Just uncomfortable to do that, whereas a direct lung, much more comfortable. So this is really what Dimitri would call a volume vaping device. It is a direct lung device, and it is it's definitely there for the vapor production and lazy cloud chasers who want to use pre-built coils, but you know but it is it sounds like I'm being hard on this thing, but I do recommend it with those reservations that I mentioned. It provides a good vape, and I guess that's what's important at the end of the day. The price isn't bad at $33.95, and it provides a decent vape. I wish it wasn't so leaky. I'm kind of a stickler on leakiness. I don't like e-liquid getting all over my hands, all over the mod. I think at this point in the vaping, the evolution of vaping, I think a device that leaks is not a device that should be on the market. And this one unfortunately has some leakiness issues. It's not super leaky. It's not as leaky as the Subtank Mini that I have. The Subtank Mini just has so much leaking from that Cyclops at the bottom that there's constantly a bead of liquid underneath the Clearo. But so it's not as leaky as that, but that leakiness on that top drip tip does drive me just batty. But again, I do recommend it. It does do what it's supposed to do. It does provide you a good vape, at $33.95. Nice clouds, nice. The flavor is on par with the version 1. Just an all-around good vape, and so it's very hard for me not to recommend it. I guess like I expected more from Aspire out of this version, and so I'm slightly disappointed. I hold you know, I hold Aspire kind of high, like their products kind of high. So when they come out with something that doesn't quite meet that expectation, I'm a little disappointed. You know, I thought that the Nautilus and the Nautilus Mini were you know, the best Clearos of their type, and that sort of set the standard for me. You know, the Atlantis version 1 was way ahead of the game, and I think still overall a more solid device than the Kinger Subtank. The Subtank has good flavor, but it's just so leaky and, you know, has some other issues, you know, that I think that the Atlantis sort of set the bar really high for sub-ohm Clearos, and I think the version 2, I was expecting a lot out of it, and what we really got at the end of the day was the version 1 with better airflow and better wicking, and an aggravating drip tip setup. But I do appreciate the cotton coils. I appreciate the larger wicking holes there, the better wicking. I appreciate that the airflow is better and looser and better vapor production. So um, all those things are definitely improvements. And it's worth buying. You know, over the version 1, it is, you know, overall an improvement. I wish I'm still going to use my version 1s, and one big reason is that I can put my own drip tips on the version 1. But I'm obviously going to use this one as well. Um, and that about wraps it up. Um, I think it's a decent device. I have some reservations about it, but if you're into that, if you're into the volume vaping, I would certainly wouldn't hesitate to recommend that you pick one up. So thank you very much for joining us here on the Sully Vaper. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe. Next up is going to be the Arctic. I know I've been putting this one off for a little bit, but it's going to be the Arctic Sub-Ohm Tank by Horizon Tech. So look for that video coming up here shortly. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Bye bye.